Okay, great. Well, thank you guys. I want to start off by saying that this is an incredibly stressful time for you guys, and I acknowledge that we've all been through this. It's an incredibly frustrating but really exciting time. So to prepare you for that, I want you to think about the university experience. This is going to be 4 or more years of the best time of your life. It's a new life where you're going to experience a brand new ecosystem of people, opportunities, jobs, and pathways. A place where you're going to discover things you never knew existed, things you never even could have imagined. It's like you're in a maze. You need to find your way out of it, but you don't know where the end is. You think you might, but you don't know. So you're going to pick up things that you might find useful or that things you might enjoy. So throughout all this presentation and throughout your university experience, keep an open mind. So first thing, I want to ask you guys all in chat to comment and say, what's something you're most excited or scared about for university? Something I want you to realize is that everyone else is in the same boat. All right, here we go. So my name is Jeffrey. I'm a computing science major. I'm taking an entrepreneurship and innovation certificate at Simon Fraser University. I've been through multiple co-ops. I've been involved in a number of student societies and clubs, founding one of them, in fact. It's been a crazy time, so crazy in fact that even though I originally planned for a 4-year degree, I'm in my 6th year and going into my 7th now. Don't worry, I'm graduating soon. But, there's so much that we learned along the way. There's so much that I found that made me excited to stay in university. And that's why I'm taking longer. It's not because, I need longer to finish my degree. It's because there's so many experiences that I can't find elsewhere. Why SFU? I went to SFU because I loved the co-op program. I heard that the computing science co-op program was one of the best in Canada. It brings you to connect with some of the best companies in the world, Tesla, Google, Microsoft, etc. So that was the opportunity that I chose to take. We'll come back to the 6th year thing later. So, finding your major. This is the first thing that I want to talk about because it can be one of the most confusing things about your university career. Finding your major is incredibly tough because everyone's telling you to follow your passion, or your parents are telling you to do what makes money, right? Dentist, accountant, lawyer, etc. But it's so confusing to have to rationalize all of these things and then choose the one thing that you're going to do for the rest of your life. So here are some ways to think about finding your major, or your minor, or your concentration, or your double concentration, or any other fields of studies. First, think about things that you might not hate. You might go about your life and say, oh, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, and there's some things I'm okay at, and there's some things I really hate. If you really don't like something...
This meeting is being recorded.
If you really don't like something, then you can cut that out. You can say, I'm never going to do that. That's okay. But if you're okay at something, that might be something that you want to consider, because once you start digging into that thing, there might be a lot of different fields within that. So you can understand, hey, I didn't realize I was interested in this specific area. I'm in computing science. I love technology. I love games. That's pretty straightforward. But there's a whole bunch of other majors that you might never have considered. For example, political science, criminology, kinesiology, civil engineering, urban design. There's so many things out there that you've never even considered. Think about your soft skills. Think about how you like talking to people, how you like forming groups, how you like connecting in some ways, or what you do in your spare time, your side interests, right? Your hobbies. All of these things contribute to what you might want to do. And sometimes you dig into those interests and you find something that, again, you never even considered. Last thing, ask around. Talk to different people. Talk to people in that major that you think you might be interested in. Talk to people who have gone through a bunch of majors. Talk to people who are in their 30s, 40s. Ask them about what they did and why they chose that career. You might find out things that you never expected. So right now I'm taking a certificate in entrepreneurship and innovation. That's in the business faculty at SFU. When I started university, I said I'm never going to do business, ever. I dislike business. I dislike selling to people. I dislike talking to people. Obviously, 6 years down the road, that has changed. I took a business course, I talked to people in business, and I found, hey, that's not what I thought it was. But it takes a while for you to accept that and come to understand, hey, there's actually so much more to this field than I originally thought. If you're interested in SFU, know that SFU is ranked the most comprehensive university in, I believe, Canada, 10 out of 11 years in a row. So a lot of different majors to choose from. Next thing, co-op. Why should you do co-op? And what is co-op? If you don't know already, co-op and internship is a 4, 8, or 12-month short little job that you're going to do during university. You take time off from university to do it. And the reason why you might want to do this is when you get into the field, that'll be 4 years of study and you'll be jumping right in. If you want a good job, you want some experience before that, because someone will always hire someone with more experience than someone with less experience, generally. So, try before you buy. You might find out that you don't like your major as much as you thought you did. Or you might find out there's a specialization within your major that you actually like way more. But you won't know just by studying. You have to go into the field. You have to talk to people. You have to learn more about what this actually is, what that you're actually doing. So try before you buy. See what it is that you're actually getting yourself into and see if there's something that you might actually be more interested in. I actually know a co-worker of my mom. She spent a 4-year degree and then she got out into the field and found out she didn't like it. So she went back into school and then she tried another job. She tried another career, she tried a co-op, but it was after those 4 years that she realized she had never actually tried the field before, studying it. So getting that experience and that first-hand knowledge is really valuable. You can apply for a co-op or internship through your university's co-op program. Every university has this, so don't worry about it until you get to university. You can apply through company websites. You can go straight to a company and say, I want this job, give me this job, please. Right? I'm interested, tell me more, I'd like to apply. Even with little experience, you can do that, and that's all you need because companies will be interested. You can go into LinkedIn and look for different jobs there. It has a job search portal. And finally, you can talk with people you know, friends, professors, acquaintances. If you're interested in something, ask about it and people will be happy to tell you more. One of the hugest regrets that people have from university is that they didn't go through co-op. Right? They didn't experience that. They didn't get the chance to jump out and try their field and get experience and throw something on their resume and say, I actually worked in this field and I know what I'm doing. So don't discredit co-op. It's incredibly useful. Take as many as you need. Last thing that I want to talk about today is the 4-year myth. Now, I mentioned before that I started expecting to graduate in 4 years, and I was actually on track. But now here I am in my 6th year, going into my 7th, thinking, it's been a long time, right? What have I been experiencing? Why did I do that? Well, first of all, think about why you go to university. You might go to university because your parents want you to. Sure. But if you're going to survive 4 years here, you're going to want to dig deeper into that. Probably you're going to university because you want that fun experience with friends, with new people, with networks. Or you might go to university because you want a job, right? Everyone wants a job. Everyone wants a nice paying job out of university so they can say, hey, I'm successful. I know what I'm doing, right? So make sure you figure out something that isn't, I'm getting a degree for the sake of getting a degree, and follow that. Because there's so much more to university than just a 4-year degree. There's co-ops, there's student societies, there's clubs, there's friends, there's parties, if you're into that. There's learning different things about where you want to go. Again, majors. One of my friends has switched between majors 6 different times. 6 times! Right? So you don't need to be afraid of saying, I need to choose my major right into university. You can switch majors again and again and again. It's frictionless, it's easy. As long as you care about what you're doing, you can go and find out what you want to do. You'd probably rather get out after university, after let's say 6 years, doing something that you want to do, rather than spend 4 years doing something that you don't want to do. and then you have to go back and figure things out. So take your time, figure out what you want to get done, and experience everything. There's so much out there in university that you're going to experience. You're not going to be the same person when you finish as when you started. So, with that, I want to leave you with this little piece of advice. If you forget everything else from today's talk, remember to find your passion and follow it, and fear not. There's so many opportunities. Fear will hold you back, and there's so much to learn. So fear not. Thank you all. We might have time for a few questions.
Yeah, if anyone has a couple questions they're dying to ask right now, feel free to ask. Otherwise, you're welcome to save them for our Q&A session later on.
Feel free to ask about my co-op, about my
Yeah.
clubs, anything like that. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Devin.
so we have a question in the chat from Donald Lee. He asks, how can we get an internship during high school?
That's a really great question. In fact, high school and coding are a really great fit because in some fields, especially coding, employers don't really care about how much university or education you have. It's more about what you can accomplish and how interested you are. So first things first is get a bit of experience, right? Figure out what you need to do in order to have a little bit of skill. Program your own websites, make your own stuff, volunteer, show your own projects. Have something that you can base off of. And then go to the company website, or go to someone who works there that you know and say, hey, I'm interested. I want to help out, or I want to, get a job there. What can I do to get there? And usually they will help you, because if you're passionate, that's really important. The company doesn't want someone who sits there and does a 9 to 5 and gets really bored and wastes a lot of time. They want someone who cares about what they're doing, even if they're in high school. So it's never too young to try and reach out to your contacts and say, hey, how do I get involved? How do I get experience in this field? How do I join you?
Awesome. We also have another question from Crystal, and she asks, would you say the interview process for SAP is intense?
SAP specifically, I would say, is actually not too intense. Now, every company, it depends. For those who don't know about SAP, it's one of the largest tech companies in the world, even though you've probably never heard of it. It does a lot of business software. You would think that it would be, very strict. Google has, I think, 3 to 5 interviews, a lot of them on site. But SAP, they're very relaxed, right? You can submit a lot of applications to different positions, and once you do, and you're chosen for the right position, you interview with your boss, and your boss can ask you any question you want. It's not a strict interview process where you have to be graded on the specific scale. He or she just wants to learn more about who you are, what you do, what you're interested in. Are you interested and passionate enough to learn? And my boss recognized that in me. He's an incredibly nice guy. So yeah, it really depends on what team you're in, what company you're in, but generally people want to learn more about you and less about grading you on a scale.
Perfect. We have one question from Yun Yun. What extracurriculars did you like doing in high school?
In high school. I'll preface this with saying that you don't need to do any extracurriculars in high school to do them in university, because I know some people are afraid of that. But I was involved in a club that went to different senior centers and performed music for them. I did a bunch of volunteering. I helped out at the school library. It's really about trying a bunch of different things and saying, hey, I don't know about this opportunity. I don't know if I'll like it, but I'll try it once or twice, see if I enjoy it. It's really important for you to get that exposure and to say, hey, I'm going to spend this time, I'm going to carve out this time outside my schoolwork to try this. Those kinds of habits will suit you well way into university.
Great, that's awesome. One last question before we get the ball rolling again, but feel free to save your other questions for Jeffrey during our Q&A session. So, should we worry, from Carney, should we worry about making sure we have to have 4 APs, perfect scores, and be perfectionists? Or should we just go with the flow when looking to get into a good university?
you should definitely go with the flow, right? You should never stress about your high school grades. Now, there's a little point at which you should, in terms of, you need to get into the university that you're interested in. Past that, your high school grades don't matter. What matters is your work ethic and your passion for what you're doing, right? That translates far better into what you're going to do. For example, I know some people who have had terrific grades in high school, and then they weren't interested in what they're doing in university, and then they didn't work hard enough, so their grades dropped, right? On the other hand, I know people who weren't so interested in high school. They didn't work very hard, they had mediocre grades, and then when they got into university, they saw that they had to go for it. They had to talk to people and learn more. So they worked so hard in order to get their grades up. They got straight A's later. They got into big companies. So it's about your work ethic, right? You don't have to stress about not getting perfect grades in high school. It's not about that. If you have any other questions, I'll be available at the end of the presentation. I'll post these slides on the Facebook event. Feel free to contact me on Facebook or at email. I'm always happy to help.
Awesome, and we'll be saving your question tag for, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly, for our Q&A session. So that'll be our first question there. But all in all, thank you so much to Jeffrey. We definitely learned a lot about how you discovered your passion in computer science and tested out through real work experience.